does anyone here think the maps are worth relying on? So, in our state, we're
Negative response.
I saw it should be noted.
All five.
Nobody on this panel thinks the maps are worth relying on. I don't think anybody on this committee thinks the maps are worth relying on. We have some specific unserved areas that could have been served with a better map, even in the last round of the distribution of money. 51% of rural Missourians don't have access to high-speed broadband, which is above the national average and very concerning. Going to be a critically important part of the ability to compete in the future, and I think is important in the next 10 years as the telephone was 70 years ago, and we need to make the same kind of commitment. So the Missouri General Assembly is trying to make money available. They have so little faith in the maps that they're thinking about coming up with their own maps. I know, Ms. Splater, we're one of the states you're looking at. Could you talk about your process a little bit and maybe why Missouri and states like Missouri were selected to be part of that? And then are there other mapping proposals or other projects out there that link up with this in a way that we're going to come up with some better information based on what you're doing?
Thank you for that question, Senator Blunt. And we're very proud and glad to actually launch our pilot, including in Missouri. The inception here was very clear. We need to do better to if we are going to actually have a broadband map that works, we actually have to be able to map to serviceable locations where they are, but also where they're not. And so what we are doing is aggregating new data sources, both public and private, open source and commercial, contributed by our companies, contributed by third-party companies, to actually create a foundational database that will allow for a very clear delineation of where serviceable locations currently exist. We're going to deduplicate and improve the confidence score of that data through crowdsourcing. We're going to layer on geocoding, specific geolocation attributes to the locations that we find. Then we're going to invite our broadest range of technology providers to overlay on top of this foundational database their shape files and other types of data that will ultimately be able to then be provided to our government partners, the FCC, which is, we're doing this work in response to their rulemaking on 477 modernization. And our hope is that this will become the foundation for a single, harmonized, comprehensive national broadband map that shows where America's broadband serviceable locations are and where they're not. When that happens, this will become a tool that will be able to be complementary to any government initiative in developing maps, be it at the FCC, at the NTIA, where we've been closely coordinating with their project that they're elaborating in 8 states, or even beyond. But we all know, as we've discussed here in this hearing, that we have to start with a new view of creating a foundational database with these new data assets that have come online just in the last couple of years.
So you'll be able to use geo-positioning and other things to show that maybe one small section of a census tract may have been barely served, but that doesn't mean you can check the tract off as an area that has had broadband service?
Absolutely. But the other innovation is that we can go beyond address-level reporting to actually reporting where locations are, be they residences or schools or hospitals or barns or granaries or ranch facilities. This is the new frontier. We can go from broadband to the mailbox to broadband to actually where it's needed most, which are not only the locations that are served, but where they're currently unserved.
Mr. Donovan, do you have any idea of why would there have been any advantage? What would be the advantage of exaggerating your coverage area if let's assume you didn't just make up the coverage, but you, benefit of a doubt, you sort of exaggerated your coverage? Is this just to keep competitors out, or why is that a problem with these maps?
Well, part of it is a reflection of how people are using their mobile devices today. It's no longer just a cell phone that you want enough service to make a voice call. Instead, now you need to have the data connectivity to access all of these incredible innovations, machine-to-machine technologies, Internet of Things, the reliance on having access to robust data services is ever more important. And having that access is drilling down to a more granular level of service to be able to have the service levels that you'd expect to be able to run those applications.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman.